Well, welcome back, everybody. Good to see you all. Fire Medic Adventures 17. It's Matt, that firefighter paramedic guy. Yep, you guessed it. I am that guy. I am here tonight. We got kind of a short little news segment for you all. And guess what? It has nothing to do with Stardust Racers. Go figure. Stardust Racers, we've been hitting that one pretty hard and heavy lately, but it just keeps giving out news every day, it seems like. So we're taking a break from Stardust Racers. We're going to talk about the Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit. They had a structure fire there today on the Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit on the lift hill. At some point this afternoon, the City of Orlando Fire Department was called out to Universal for a fire on the lift hill segment of the track. And for those who have never seen the Rip Ride Rockit, the lift hill is vertical. It goes straight up. And the fire looked like it was contained to the track where the chain used to sit. The chain, I would imagine, was taken out of there a long time ago, but the channel that it sat in was still there. And I would imagine there's probably, more than 20 years of grease and oil buildup in there. When that chain runs every day, all day like that, I mean, I can't imagine the amount of grease and oil that's needed to keep that thing well lubricated. Likely what happened is, as they're taking the roller coaster apart, I would imagine they're probably using a cutting torch to get through the metal and all that and take this thing down. Well, as they're getting closer to the lift hill, my guess would be is that some sparks or some flame probably got into that center channel there. That's a mouthful. And probably lit some of that grease and oil on fire, and there's so much in there. Well, there you go. That fire pretty much ran almost the length of the entire lift hill. It's kind of different. It was kind of interesting looking. It looked like something from Back to the Future, like if the Rip Ride Rockit was still in service, like it shot straight up to the sky and left the trail of fire behind it. Now, as far as taking care of the fire, Orlando Fire Department got called out there, and it looked like, just from some of the video I'm going to show you while I'm talking here, I got some like B-roll video, if you will, from the local news stations they posted on YouTube. There's some videos of the fire inside the channel of where the chain used to sit on the lift hill, and you can see where the Orlando Fire Department has their aerial extended upwards, and the firefighters are trying to put the fire out. This fire, though, from a firefighter standpoint, would be a giant pain in the ace, because this is likely a grease and oil fire, and that's probably some big-time grease and oil buildup in that channel from all the years the Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit was in service. I would imagine they only cleaned it out a handful of times when they do a major, refurbishment on the coaster. But you think about it, that thing has to run all day, every day back when it was running. And I'm sure there's a ton of grease and oil in that channel. So it doesn't take much to get that lit off, if you will. The fire department looks like they were spraying water from behind the lift hill, and I'm going to show you where I think they parked their aerial apparatus to try to fight this thing. And my other assumption would be that, responding to this fire, when it first came out, it probably came out as a working fire at Universal Studios, which then that probably prompted a huge response. Probably 5 engines, 2 or 3 ladder trucks, 2 or 3 rescues, 2 or 3 battalions. And I would imagine when they got there, battalion assumed command and probably knocked the response down to an aerial and maybe 1 or 2 engines and then a rescue, and probably sent everybody else back to the station. Because realistically, for this fire, there isn't much you're going to do. I mean, it's a fire that's contained. It's on a structure that's all metal. They're tearing it down. So it's not like this is going to burn anything to the ground. This is just more of one of those pain in the ass / inconvenience fires, because you obviously can't let it burn, although it's not going to hurt anything if you did let it burn. I mean, it's burning in a metal channel. Eventually it's going to burn off. But it's next to other structures, so you can't risk anything like dripping off of there or the wind blowing it onto something else, so you got to make an effort to put it out. My question, though, is from the videos here, they're attacking this fire kind of from behind the lift hill. I went onto Google Maps to see where they might have parked the aerial to tackle this fire. The Universal Studios side is really tricky when it comes to trying to maneuver fire apparatus through there, because 1, there's not a lot of room, and 2, the area where that lift hill sits is really narrow, and there's not a lot of room to get anything in there. And so my guess would be is they probably pulled the aerial in first. That got there first. The engine was probably staged at a hydrant somewhere. And then, battalion assumed command, and then they probably parked the rescue, away from the scene a little bit. So really the only unit probably operating this was the aerial. But I would imagine the engine connected the hydrant, probably supplied the aerial, if I had to guess. I didn't see it. I just got to go with, probably what I would have done if I would have been out there. Or maybe they just attached the aerial straight to the hydrant and they just, secured their own water supply. It's hard to know. So they got to get the fire out. But the problem is this looks to be a grease and oil type of fire, which water isn't going to do much other than coat that channel with water, and then that grease and oil kind of floats on water. So it's going to more or less spread the fire a little bit. It's not going to put it out right away. This is a tricky fire. I didn't see them use any foam or anything, which would have been the ideal thing. I'm not sure why they didn't use foam. The other thing you could have done is use like a fire extinguisher agent to put that out, because with a fire like that, you need to smother it more than anything instead of throwing water on it, which is why foam would have been the more correct choice. But maybe they didn't want to coat that thing in foam for whatever reason. And, the fire extinguisher suggestion isn't really a really good one, because one, there's a lot of area that's on fire, and that would have to be a mega fire extinguisher to put that out, unless you had a specialized suppression system on the aerial or an engine or something that you could put, that type of chemical agent on there that would basically suppress that fire. So this is really tricky. And this is one of those where you're probably going to be out there for a little bit trying to deal with this thing. But the biggest thing is you want to make sure that you protect your exposures. Again, where the Rip Ride Rockit sits, there's not too many things around there. I would say the only concern would be the fire trailing down, too far and getting into the station area where they're tearing that down, and then, you get a fire down there. But the majority of the structure is all metal, so it's not like you got to worry too much about it spreading to other things. We're going to put some pictures up here. I did some Google Maps detective work here to try to figure out where they may have brought the apparatus into the area from, and then where they may have parked the aerial. So this first picture here, you'll see this red line drawn, and that's the path, what I think the aerial apparatus took. I think it came down that access road, and then if you notice where it looks like that red line goes across the top of the roof there, so that's between two show buildings. That is a giant covered pathway through there. That is a very wide access way, but it's all covered. So I would imagine they drove the apparatus underneath there, and then they probably made a left-hand turn, or maybe they made a right-hand turn and then they backed it into place. I'm not sure, because all I could see was a ladder on the video, but either way, they probably got it into the place where you see that circle I have drawn there. And then if you notice from the videos, you could see the water again kind of coming at the lift hill from behind the lift hill. And so that's where I believe they placed the aerial. The other one that I'm going to put up here, they zoomed in on it and drew a circle, which again, I think is where they made the aerial placement. There's not a lot of room back there. And like I said, with the station still there and not torn down completely, it's not like you're going to be able to put any more apparatus back there. It's tight. I know when I used to work at Universal, and I used to go from Universal over to Islands of Adventure from time to time, you go through the back lots there, and there's not a lot of room in those back lots of the Universal side as you go over to Islands of Adventure. It's pretty snug back there. You're not going to get a lot of fire apparatus in there, at least together anyway. So they have the one aerial out there putting water on the fire, but I would imagine that's probably all they did. I'm not sure the timeline that it took to put that out, but like I said, if they're spraying water on that, they might have been there a quick minute. That's not something that's going to go out right away. Foam would have been the ideal thing to use, but like I said, I'm not sure. Maybe they use foam later. I have no idea. All I got is this video to go off of. What makes me interested in some of the video I saw, though, is if you notice the firefighter up in the bucket, it looks like they have a hand line that they're using to spray water at the lift hill. It doesn't look like they're using their master stream system that's on the exterior of the bucket. Not sure why they would have opted to use like a hand line. Maybe they have a certain protocol for that. I'm not really sure, but the other thing I'm curious is how they have the interior of that aerial bucket set up. Like maybe having a 10 or 15 foot pony section of hose, like maybe 1.75 inches or even 2.5. That's already pre-connected there, and that way when you're in the bucket, you just pick it up, kind of flake it out in there a little bit and charge it, and then aim it at whatever you're trying to put out. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure they had their reasons. But honestly, if I would have been on that fire and it would have been okay to use it, my first suggestion would have been, let's put some foam on this, because that's going to be the quickest way to get that out. The chain, I'm sure, has been gone for a while. They probably took that out right away. But again, you have an empty channel where the chain used to be, and it's probably packed full of grease and oil in there. So it's likely how that fire got started. We always have a joke, too, in the fire service when somebody will come and say, hey, what started that fire? Almost everybody will tell you, it was a flame about that big. That's what started that fire. It's always a flame about that big. Obviously, the fire's out now. I mean, I don't think they're out there anymore, but just something interesting to talk about. You don't see that every day. But I will tell you, though, as I said, from a firefighter standpoint, that is a tricky area to have a fire like that, because there is not a lot of room there, and you're only going to get, as far as aerial for elevated firefighting or an elevated master stream, you're only going to get one apparatus in there, so you're going to have to do some fancy work to try to get that out. So let me know, everybody. Did you see the fire this afternoon on the news, or did you see it this evening? And what are your thoughts on it? Any other firefighters out there that have some expertise they want to shed on this and what they would have done maybe a little differently? Just curious. I'd like to see what everybody says. So, yeah, we're going to wrap this one up, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Have a good evening, and I'll see you later on this weekend. I got a 12-hour tomorrow, and after I'm done, I got some plans to go out to the theme parks and film a little bit. I got some projects to put together, so I hope you all like these when I get them done. All right, everybody, that's it. Have a good night, and happy early college football Saturday tomorrow. Lots of great games. Indiana and Oregon, the college game day location and the game of the week. So that should be a good one. 2 5-0 teams. Who would ever imagine that Indiana would be 5-0 playing Oregon, and both teams are ranked in the top 10? Holy cow. Amazing. Have a good evening, everybody. I'll see you soon. Fire Medic Adventures out. See ya.